What's going on, everyone? This is your light skinned one, Tuskegee 87, aka Michael Joe Daddy, back in the spot with you again with part 3 of this series, Envision a Better Man 2020. In part 1, we talked about how women perceive men, where that perception came from, and why men do the things that they do leading up to that perception. In part 2, we followed up talking about what a man is. We broke down some of the social barriers and some of the biases that people have in determining what a man is, where some people say a man is this or a man is that, and we got down to the nitty-gritty of what a man is to be and how he's supposed to act. From there, we talked about defining that man. What defines a man is what he does. So now we're going to take that man defined and put him in the husband and see how he's supposed to be. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first charge that we are giving as husbands is to love our wives. But how are we supposed to love our wives? Well, I'll give you an example. We're supposed to love our wives as Christ loved the church. Now, how did Christ love the church? Well, he loved the church so much so that he gave himself up for her. What does that mean? He made a sacrifice for her. Now, who is the church? Well, the church is you and I. It's not the physical indwelling or the building or anything like that, but it is the gathering of people that make up the church. So, Jesus is the bridegroom or the husband, and the church, us, are the bride. And when we allow Jesus to come into our heart, we become one with him. Thus, we're one flesh with him. So again, Jesus made a sacrifice for us by getting up on the cross where we should have been and taking the death that we should have had to give us everlasting life. So, what does that mean? Well, how does that translate in today's world? For a husband as you and I, we can translate into, let's say your wife needs us to do something, but we want to go do something. We have to sacrifice our want to do something to do what our wife needs us to do. Or let's say we've been hanging out with the boys all week long, kicking it with them, chilling, doing XYZ thing, and our wife has been wanting us to do something with her, whether it be go shopping with her, go see a movie with her, or go walking with her. And she's been wanting us to do that for her over a month. We have to sacrifice and finally draw that line and say, hey boys, I can't hang out with y'all today. I gotta go get with my babe. She's wanting us to do something, so I'm gonna go chill with her today. You have to sacrifice that thing that you want to do sometimes to do what your wife needs or what your wife wants for you to do. So we can further take that into deeper things. But again, those are just some examples. Now, why is this? Well, why do we have to treat our wives and love our wives the way that we need to do? I know this seems elementary. I know this seems silly, but we just got to go through that gambit and walk the dog. One, in the beginning, God gave us our wives. In the very beginning, from origin, God created heavens and the earth. He created the beasts of the fields and the birds of the air and man. He saw that the beasts of the field and the birds of the air had their partners, but man did not. So God said it wasn't good that man should be alone. So he would create a helpmate for him. And so he did that for us. Now this helpmate, let's go ahead and break down that term. That helpmate is designed to bring something to the table. That helpmate is designed to help the man accomplish whatever goal or task or objective that God has put up on your life for that time, that moment, that season, or for that lifetime. Whether you're meant to be a Fortune 500 company owner, whether you're meant to pass a test, whether you're meant to buy a house, whether you're meant to do whatever it is that you're designed to do as a man, your helpmate as your wife is there to help you meet that need. If, again, we said a wife, not a woman that you chose to marry and then call her your wife. A lot of kids do this in the military when they're young to get this extra money, but then it doesn't yield them better results down the road. But a wife is someone who's going to bring something beneficial to the table. Now, how do I define that? We've all heard of Proverbs 31, that Proverbs 31 girl. If you really look into that Proverbs 31 girl, she has her own vocation. She has her own skill set. She is bringing something to the table. She goes out to the marketplace, sells her skills, and brings the proceeds of that back into the home. She uses those proceeds to decorate the home. She uses those proceeds to help further the household itself. That is what a woman is designed to do. If you have a wife specifically, that's what a wife is designed to do. If you have a wife who is just not really bringing anything to the table, she is actually detracting from your life, causing you more headache and heartache than you had before, then she's not your wife, and she's not the wife for you. You just kind of got married on your own whim. So again, a man must find a wife, so that he must attain favor from the Lord, and not just find a woman to marry. Because when you find a wife, you attain that favor from the Lord, and that favor translates into your wife is bringing something to the table. Through your wife, you get all these extra different things birthed through her. Women are so awesome. Your wife is awesome, man. Like, I don't know if you believe it or not. Sometimes I have to remind myself that, my wife is awesome. She does some great things, because without our wives, sometimes some things we just miss, and that's where that favor of God comes in, is through our wives. So again, why is this thing so important? Why is it that we obtain favor from the Lord by finding a wife? Well, as we mentioned before about that marriage in the spiritual realm with Jesus and us being the church and us marrying and becoming one, when we marry our wives here on earth and we become one with them, now we're mimicking what's happening in the spiritual realm. What's happening in the spiritual realm, again, is a union between our soul and Jesus. We're doing that here on earth. That's why we're getting that favor. And of course, there's some other things that go into that. So again, that's where that favor comes from. But with this favor, we have to know how to live with our favor. We have to know what to do with our favor. We have to live with this favor in according to knowledge and understanding of her. We have to be considerate of her. Let's take, for example, that you got this brand new top of the line car with the latest technology in it, with all the bells and whistles, and it can do all of this great things. It can almost pretty much fly. But you don't know how to operate the systems because you haven't read the manual. If you don't read the manual or understand how to operate that asset that you just received, you can end up damaging some of the components. You can end up burning it out and rendering it inoperable. Now that thing that you had that was designed to help you, let's say a car, get you to work and from work, or to help you pick up things to do your job, now you can't do it effectively anymore because you didn't take care of it, because you didn't read the manual. You didn't live with it according to knowledge. So translating that into our wives, we have to live with them according to knowledge. We have to love them the way they want to be loved, not the way we want to be loved, but the way they want to be loved. That's where that knowledge part comes in. Now, we also must grant them honor as the weaker vessel and as the woman, because they are co-heirs to the grace of life, so that our prayers may not be hindered. Now, let's go ahead and backtrack to that weaker vessel piece, because I know some people are feeling some kind of way about that, because it's a controversial topic, or it may be a point of contention for some people. But when we talk about the weaker vessel, we're talking about not necessarily the body itself. Yes, the body is less strong than a man's body. We already know that. But let's go all the way back to the Garden of Eden again, where we talked about that fruit. They're in the Garden of Eden, and God has placed them in there. And God said, hey, you can eat everything in this garden except for this tree. And a tempter came, and I'm going to assume that the tempter came to tempt Adam, and Adam didn't yield to that temptation. Then he came to Eve, and Eve was tempted, but she resisted the temptation. But then she finally gave in, and she took of that fruit and she ate the fruit. At that point, she became the weaker vessel because she yielded to that temptation from the outside party. So as we press on, we need to make sure that as our wife is given to us, we live in knowledge of her. We are now meant to be heads of our household, because now we are placed as the head over our wives. Now, this may be another point of contention. Somebody might not be feeling that. They might not be liking that term. Well, why is that? Well, we're going to dive into that. There is a hierarchical structure that's going on. See, we have God the Father, who created everything. Then we have Jesus. Then we have man. Then we have the woman. And the man is meant to be the headship over the woman. Now, why is that? Well, that's because a man did not originate from woman. The woman originated from man. I know that's a mind blower right there, but let's get into this a little bit deeper. A man was not created for the woman's sake, but the woman was created for the man's sake. Now, that doesn't mean that you disrespect and mistreat her and treat her as less than, because she's not. She may be the weaker vessel, but she's not the less than vessel. Let's make sure we get that straight right now. So again, a woman was created for the sake of man. Now, how do we know this? Well, let's go all the way back into Genesis again, because this is what this is referencing. Right now, we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And it's talking about how how God put Adam to sleep. And this is before Eve arrived upon scene. But God put Adam to sleep. He took from him his rib, and he created woman from him. Now, what is this rib? Now, this rib may be the physical rib, but let's get a little bit deeper into it. This rib is the DNA, the diribolic nucleic acid. Now, that's an interesting term. Dirib. So that means that she was already from the beginning of time part of Adam. God just had to go forth and create her and then show her to Adam. So again, that's where we come with that headship. When God created woman from man, man looked upon the woman and said, you are flesh of my flesh, you are blood of my blood, you are bone of my bone, you came from me, so I will call you woman, because the woman came out of the man. So a woman is a part of a man. She is a portion of a man. So that is why the man has a headship over him. It's kind of like a woman who gives birth to a child, how she has headship over the child because she gave birth to the child. Same thing with the man from the very origins of life itself. So that's where we're coming from. That's where that headship comes from. And again, that's where that tier of hierarchy comes from. And so now, because of this, a man shall leave his mother and father, and he shall cleave to his wife, not just a woman, but his wife, and they should become one flesh. Now everything that you do affects her. Now everything that she does affects you. That is why you have to make sure you find a wife and not just a woman, because if she's not bringing something to the table, or if she's doing stuff to take away from the table, all that's going to affect you. So again, we have to be mindful of that reality. And again, love our wives. So in closing, we want to remind you all that as husbands, we are charged with loving our wives as ourselves, as our own body, because she is our own body, because we are one flesh with her. We have joined and united with her, so we must cherish her. We must love her, just as you would cherish and love and nurture your own flesh. You have to do the same with her. What she represents is you. How she goes out into the world, she represents you. Just like how you go out into the world, you represent your parents, you represent the company you work for, you represent God overall. And so that's how your wife represents. So you must adorn her accordingly. However you dress her, however you teach her, however you sanctify her, because that's what we're required to do. That is what you do. We are meant to rule over her. And that's the part I kind of skipped over, but her desire is to be for her husband, and her husband is to rule over her. And when we rule, we're not talking about oppression. We're talking about giving guidance. We're talking about, let's look at an actual ruler. A ruler gives you measurements, inches, meters, centimeters. That's what a ruler does. It gives you a measurement. A rule gives you a guideline of what to do. That's what we as husbands are designed to do. We're supposed to sanctify her. We're supposed to cleanse her through sanctification, which is by giving her guidance. We're supposed to direct her to a thing, and she's supposed to be able to go along with that, because she knows at the end of the day it's for the greater good, and that you have her benefit at heart. So that's all I got for part 3. Y'all stay tuned for part 4 as we talk about the man and the husband, and as we dive deeper into it. Again, as always, like, subscribe, comment if you have questions, if you want me to line out some things a little bit deeper. If you have any other suggestions for any other type of content, again, drop it down in the comment below. Subscribe to check out some of these other videos and some of these other playlists. And again, remember that this is Tuskegee 87 reminding you all to straighten up and fly right, and encouraging you to know that you got the power to make it do what it do. So let's get it done. All right, I'm out. Bye.